Okay, good evening everyone, and welcome back to another week of our studies and our deep looking into the words of PIRKEI AVOS, the ethics of our fathers. Tonight's shir is inspired by a levaya, by a funeral that I attended this afternoon for an elderly man, Moshe ben Yosef, Moshe Armin, who lived a very beautiful, simple, pure, unassuming life. And a fascinating story that his son told me at the funeral itself, and it'll become the end of the shir, I believe. But Chazal tell us, not Chazal, Shlomo Melech, King Solomon teaches us in Ecclesiastes the following words: Toiv laleches lebeis ovel. It's better for a person to go to a beis ovel, to a house of mourning, mileches mi beis hamishta, than to go to a celebration, to a wedding, to a dance hall, to a discotheque. Better to go to a funeral, to a house of mourning, than to go to a place where there's a lot of levity and dancing and singing and people having a good time. Ki achayim yitain el liboy, because those that are alive, meaning those that are standing by the graveside, those that are going to the house of the mourner, those that are hearing stories about a person who lived 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years in this world, Yitain el libo, they will take the messages to their heart and they will evaluate their own lives as well, and they will begin to ask themselves, am I utilizing the precious moments of time that Hashem has rewarded to me? Am I using my life? Am I using my energies? Am I using my strengths? Am I overcoming my obstacles and my difficulties in the right way, which make me something that at the end of 120 years of life, when they sit around and they will talk about me, is it something that is going to be inspiring to those that are listening as well? So the inspiration comes not from the parties, and it doesn't come from the weddings. Those are happy moments, and they're not to be denied and they're not to be lost on. And of course, a celebration is something that a person enjoys, of course. There's no doubt about that. But the real lessons that a person learns in life, which are going to make the greatest impact on his heart and his soul, and the way that he thinks and perceives himself in the world around him, is if he goes to the Beis Avel, he goes to a place where he realizes that this world itself is just transitory. And this world is just a passing fancy. And we're not going to last forever and ever and ever. And at a certain point, we're going to enter into a new place and a new time and a new realm. And we want to make sure that we are prepared properly for such an endeavor. So the Mishnah tells us in PIRKEI AVOS the following. It tells us, this is in the 4th chapter of PIRKEI AVOS. Every print is different, but I'll go with the print of the art scroll on page 568, and it's Mishnah Chaf Aleph, number 21. And it says over the following words. Rabbi Yaakov says the following. Ha'olam hazeh doime lefroizdor. This world is comparable to a proizdor, to a entranceway, to a hallway, to a lobby, bifnei ha'olam haba, before the world to come. It is like the entranceway which is preceding the world to come. Haskein atzmecha b'proizdor. So therefore, fix yourself up here in the proizdor, in this hallway, in this entranceway, kedei shetikanes l'traklin, in order that you should be able to enter into the traklin, into the palace, or perhaps to translate it as a banquet hall. But a person is correcting and fixing themselves up in this world, in the hallway, in order that they can enter into the banquet hall, into the palace itself. Very small Mishnah, not many words over here, but the meaning and the ramifications are very profound for us. And the Mishnah starts out by telling us that Olam Hazeh, this world that we find ourselves in right now, the world of activity, the world which we are involved with, the world which we are members of, it is compared to a lobby or to a hallway. I don't think anybody would like to spend their life living in a hallway or a lobby. I would assume that anyone that is in a lobby of a hotel or in the hallway of entering into a beautiful palace, I assume that the goal is to get to the palace. Nobody wants to stick around in the lobby for too long. I mean, even if they have 86-inch plasma TVs all over the sides of the wall over there, and they have beautiful paintings from some French artist that you can't pronounce. It's nice, but that's not the goal, is not to be in the prosdor, is not to be in the lobby. Everybody wants to walk through the hallway and they want to get into the main building, to the main place where they're heading. And yet Olam Hazeh, this world, which is quite a long distance apparently, 70 to 120 years of a person's life is spent walking through the hallway. This world is like a hallway bifnei ha'olam haba, before the world to come. Which means that the palace of our dreams, the throne room where the king is going to be sitting, waiting for us, that's really olam haba, that is the world to come, which is beyond this world. And therefore, says the Mishnah, if that's the reality, that this world is just a small little entranceway, it's a hallway for a person to walk through before they get to the ultimate goal, which is the palace itself. So then what should you do in the hallway? Haskein atzmecha beprosdor, fix yourself up while you're inside the prosdor. There's no other place to fix yourself up. It's too late. Once the door opens and the prosdor is over, there's no more fixing, says the Mishnah. Whatever you didn't correct in this world, there's no correcting in the world to come. However dirty, however much dirt you have on your clothing, as you are exiting the hallway, trying to get into the palace, that dirt comes along with you. And therefore, haskein atzmecha, fix yourself up in this world, kedei, in order, shetikanes letraklin, that you'll be zeicha, you will merit to enter into that world to come. Now the commentators ask over here, very interesting, that the Mishnah is saying that the reason that we're in this world is to fix ourselves up, and the reason that we are fixing ourselves up is kedei, in order that we should enter into the world to come. Don't we learn elsewhere in PIRKEI AVOS that a person should not serve Hashem on condition to receive reward? Rather, a person should serve Hashem on condition not to receive reward. I'm doing it because it's a great opportunity and a tremendous gift that I have and a responsibility to serve Hashem. Not because I know He's going to give me my just reward. That's already secondary intentions while I'm doing my mitzvahs. That's already having something else in mind besides the purity of the mitzvah itself. And yet, the Mishnah says over here clearly that the reason that I'm going through this world is to correct myself, and the reason I'm correcting myself is kedei, in order that I should be able to walk into the world to come. So are we altruistic in our fixing ourselves up over here? Or do we have ulterior motives in what we're coming to accomplish? And by the way, what does it mean to be misakin, to fix oneself up? What does that mean? To keep yourself well groomed? To make sure that your clothes are always pressed? To make sure that your weight is always just in line with the BMI over there? What exactly does it mean to be misakin, to fix yourself up? How does one fix themselves in this world? We have some loose screws, so we'll tighten them, we'll make sure. We're a little rusty, so we'll get some oil. What is the tikkun, what is the correction that a person needs to make here in this world? And thirdly, why is this world so long? And why is the task so daunting? And why does it take so many years to get to the end result over there if it's just a hallway? Like we said before, nobody's interested in being stuck inside the hallway. Everybody wants to go to the main room. You know, it's like when you get to a chassan or something, you get to a wedding, and they have the place where the shmorg is, where the whole smorgasbord with, all the food that you could possibly imagine eating in the next 45 minutes of your life, and then still find room in your stomach to eat the main meal as well. and you can already see the doors to the main room are open just a crack, and you can see the lights going, you can hear a little bit of the music, the band is warming up. As good as the food is by the shmorg, as many plates piled high of sushi, and on the other hand of all the carving stations you have in your hands over there, it's all delicious and it's great. But you know the real party's on the inside. And you start losing focus of what you're doing. Someone's talking to you, you keep looking over their shoulder. You want to see what's going on in the main room over there. People are standing there, they're talking, they're explaining themselves to you. You're nodding your head, you're nodding, yeah, but you're looking in that room. You hear some music, you hear a drum roll, you hear the guitar playing, you see the lights that are flashing. You want to get to the main room. So why then, and nobody spends a long time. Remember, at a wedding, the main part of the night is in the main room. Over here, our whole life is trapped in the prosdor, trapped in the alley, in the hallway over here. What do we have to accomplish in this long hallway that we are walking down? So perhaps Rashi in the Mishnah says it's simplest for us to understand. And he writes the following: that this world is a traklin, this world is a hallway before the world to come. And he says, we are going through the prosdor, we're going through the hallway, fixing ourselves up in order to enter into the world to come. Lifnei HaMelech, when a person is going to walk before the king, for someone that would like to go and enter into the king's private chambers, into his throne room, to see him in all of his glory, sitting on the throne, adorned by his robe and his crown. He's got ministers standing all around him. The awe of that moment when he sees the king. What does he do? Misakin roishai uzakanai. He fixes his hair while he's walking into the room. He trims out his beard over here to make sure that it's straight. Umechavim albushav. He straightens his clothing over here to make sure that he looks like $1 million. Lifnei chatzar habayis, within the chatzar, the courtyard of the house, before he's going to walk into the king's private chambers. A person knows that he's going to see the king, and he's either going to find favor in the eyes of the king or not. So he wants to look his best. So he's fixing everything up about himself before he enters into that room. And that's then when he gets there, if he has a little mirror, there's a mirror maybe on the wall of the hallway over there, he's looking in the mirror, he's looking at his teeth there to make sure there's nothing inside. He wants to make sure he looks good. Who doesn't? Says Rashi, Kach, so too, Tzarech kol adam, every person has to do the same exact thing. L'sakin atzmai ba'olam hazeh, fix yourself up in this world. B'tshuva u'maisim tovim, by repenting and doing good deeds. The Misha Tarach Be'erev Shabbos, for someone who works hard on the eve of Shabbos, Yoichel b'Shabbos, they will be the one who gets to eat on Shabbos. If you prepare the meal, as we've spoken about several times, if you prepare the meal properly, you went to the store, you did the shopping, you peeled the vegetables, you turned on the fire, you put the roast in the oven, you made the chicken soup, you kneaded the challah, you didn't leave it in the bowl, you actually shaped it into loaves, you didn't leave it on the counter, you put it into the oven and it baked. So then you'll have what to eat when comes the Shabbos day. Therefore, says Rashi, somebody who is misakin, who corrects themselves and fixes themselves up in this world, so they too then will be someone that is worthy of walking into the king's palace in the world to come to receive their just reward, which is going to be the ultimate in the closeness that they're going to have to the Ribbono Shel Olam. What does tikkun, what does it mean for one to fix themselves up in this world, and how do they know what they came down to this world to correct anyway? Person takes a test, and they don't do well, so the teacher passes back the test and they say correct number 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many there were wrong. If the test is so bad, the teacher says, you know what, go study again. You have to take a makeup test. A person has to learn a person makes mistakes in this world, they have to correct their mistakes. What are the corrections that a person has to make in this world in order to be worthy of coming to the world to come? The Chavetz Chaim writes, and I believe that we've spoken about this before, that how should a person know why it is that they came back another time? We believe in the concept, like the Ramchal teaches us, of Gilgul Neshamas, which means the soul is reincarnated. This is not the first time that you and I have been here. Certainly not, it's not our first time on Zoom together, that's for sure. It's not the first time that we came into this world. Our souls have been here maybe many times before, in different lifetimes, in different time periods, in different bodies, in different families, in different countries, in different cities, in different situations in life. And the soul keeps coming back down until it rectifies the mistakes that it never corrected from a previous lifetime. Says the Chavetz Chaim, how do you know what you came down here to correct? How do you know what you need to fix up? So he says there's a very easy way for a person to be able to measure their status in this world. And it doesn't mean you have to Google yourself and see what the world has to say about you. That's not how we check our status. It doesn't mean that when you get a notice from LinkedIn, look who is looking into your LinkedIn account today. Look who's looking you up. That's not how we figure out our status and what we're doing here in this world. Says the Chavetz Chaim the following. When a person begins to examine their life honestly, and they see the areas in their life where they are continually being tested, then you will know, lekach niver, for that is the reason you were created. That is the reason that Hashem funneled your neshama, your soul, back here into this world. And that is the reason why you are going to be mesaken. You have to fix yourself up to make yourself look presentable before the king after you leave this long hallway called life. And if a person will begin to become honest and examine their deeds, they will begin to look at the things that they are going through in their life. They will begin to see the areas that they feel spiritually challenged or spiritually handicapped in throughout the day. Then they should take that as a message from Hashem himself, nobody else, that that's why you are here, and that is how you are mesaken, that is how you fix yourself up. You know, it's fashionable these days to wear clothing that has holes and stains in it. I think you can go to the store, spend a lot of money to buy clothing that is ripped up, looks like it got ripped up in the laundry machine over there in the dryer, and there are blotches of different colors on the shirts and on the pants. Shoes now, one of the styles apparently is one shoe is black and one shoe is white. That's the unity that we are trying to create in this world between our feet. And therefore it became stylish. And so if a person would go to the seamstress and say, you know what, could you just sew up the holes over here in my pants? So she'll say, well, didn't you spend $225 on those jeans? That is the style. We don't fix those things up. So if I go to the cleaners and I say, can you just do me a favor and get this blotch out of my shirt over here? He'll say, wait a second, I know that brand. That's somebody else's name on your shirt over there. He's making millions off of you buying his clothing. And his whole chachma, his whole insight into the world of advertising clothing is, for some reason, people like to buy clothes that have blotches on them. I can't get it off. It's part of the clothing itself. You don't fix it up. So imagine a person comes into this world and they see some rips and some holes in their clothing, in their spiritual content. They see some blotches over here and blotches over there. And they spend their lifetime trying to repair the blotches, clean off the dirt, and repair the holes that are there. But says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wait a second. That's not why you came to this world. Yeah, it's true that that's all part of the package deal that you have. But that's not really why you came to this world, to correct and to fix that. There are certain aspects of your life that intrinsically a person who's aware of themselves will be able to understand those are the things, that is the area that I must correct and I must fix up. The other part is the rip part, the blotches that are there, the dirt, the stains that are on you. Those are parts of your personality, of your traits perhaps, of the challenges of your life that you're going to have. You must overcome and you must get over. But that thing inside of your life that you must really work on, you must examine again and again and again how many times you are being tested in a certain area of your life. And when you find what that is, then you'll know that that's the tikkun, that's the correction that you are supposed to make. A tikkun means when something is broken and you want to fix it. On Shabbos there is a malacha, there's something called tikkun kli. You're not allowed to fix a broken vessel because you're making it now usable when it wasn't usable before. So the kli, the vessel of who I am as a person, it's somewhat broken, it's in disarray, and it needs to be repaired. What am I going to repair? Says the Chavetz Chaim, you figure it out. You'll recall, unfortunately, several years ago, there was this tragic story about a family named the Sassoon family in New York. And the father had to be away on some kind of meeting for Shabbos, and he wasn't home that week. And his wife and their, I believe, 8 children were in the house for Shabbos, and a fire broke out, and 7 of the children, lo aleinu, burned to death. The mother and one of the children jumped out of the 2nd-story window, barely escaping their lives as well. And still, if I'm not even mistaken, until this day, several years later, still recovering from the damages to their body, from the burns that they both incurred, to the fall that they took on the floor, and of course the traumatic experience that they went through. And a good friend of mine happens to be a good friend of the father of that family, Rabbi Sasson. And he went to pay a shiva call. When the man was sitting shiva for his 7 children and his wife and his daughter that were alive, they were still in the hospital. And somebody came to that shiva house and they said, Rabbi Sassoon, tell me, I want to do something in the merit of your children's neshamot, of their souls, to give them an elevation. Tell me, Rabbi, what should I do for them? What mitzvah should I do? What should I take upon myself that will be a merit for their souls? So Rabbi Sasson, who was sitting shiva for 7 children, he looks at the man immediately and he says, I should tell you what to do. I don't know what's going on inside of you. I don't know what your shortcomings and your faults are. I don't know where you're deficient in your observance. I don't know what you're lacking. Nobody knows you like you know yourself. So you want to do something that will be meritorious to my children? You know yourself. You figure out what you have to do. And whatever you decide to work on, which means it's probably something that's not so easy, then that will be the greatest merit possible. Says the Chavetz Chaim, that's how we look at our lives. Our lives are in such a way that, yes, Baruch Hashem, there's so many amazing and wonderful aspects. There's so many things that we are successful in. There's so many areas of our lives where we see the bracha, we see the blessing. Nevertheless, at the same time, there are areas that we are struggling in. There are midos, there are character traits that we are so bad in. Whether it be our laziness, our haughtiness, our inability to humble ourselves, whether it is our self-righteousness, whether it's our cruelty, whether it's our lack of compassion and mercy, stinginess, whatever it might be. Says the Chavetz Chaim, see what that is. And if you will learn and you will understand and you will see what that is, then that will be the tikkun kli. That's the way that you will correct and you will fix yourself up here in this world. But if a person doesn't do that, then guess what? You're stuck in a hallway and you have no idea what you're doing. Imagine you go into this beautiful hallway with your children. And in the hallway, there are plasma TVs, and each one is showing some more exciting movie that your children like. And there is fine art, and there's food that you can eat, and there's tables that are filled with nash that the kids are able to take with what they want. And the kids are getting delayed in this hallway over here. They keep looking at the movies. They keep taking the nash and they're eating it. There's soda fountains that they can take any drink that they want to, and it's all free just for the taking. Take whatever you want. But you're the parent, and you want to get out of the hallway because you know that there's a much greater thing. There's a wedding that's beginning. There's an important person that you're supposed to go and see. You're walking into the main room, the main area of the hotel, and you rented these beautiful rooms that you want your kids to come and see, but your kids are having a blast in the hallway. They're noshing and watching the movies. They're enjoying themselves and they're watching TV. They're getting caught up in all of the chaos of historical moments that are going on right now, unfolding in front of our eyes. They're just becoming so much a part of it. And you keep telling them, kids, there's something else. There's another place that we're going to. It's much bigger. It's much greater. There's much more that we can accomplish over there and do. And the kids are telling you, are you kidding, mommy? You're kidding, daddy? Look at all this free food, movies galore that we like. Why do we want to leave the hallway? And unfortunately, and which is what the Rashi is alluding to over here, is that so many of us get caught up in the hallway of life. And we begin to get attracted to all the sights and the wonders and the sounds that are there. And we get drawn in to the nash. We get drawn into the media. We get drawn into the entertainment, to the luxuries, to the pleasures of the hallway, what it has to offer. And we forget that there's a whole world beyond here that is waiting for us. Says the Mishnah, the only way to merit that world is if you're doing tikkun, if you're correcting yourself. And how does one correct themselves? Says Rashi, b'tshuva u'maisim tovim. Two things, very simple, or easier said than done. A person evaluates their actions, they see where they are faltering, and they do tshuva, they return. They come back to a straighter path. And then they engage themselves constantly in Maisim Tovim, good deeds, positive deeds, mitzvahs, Torah, chesed, perfecting their midos, their character traits. And that is what the hallway is for, which means all the alluring images in the hallway, all the pleasures that this world itself has to offer to us, all the enticing things about Olam Hazeh, this particular physical, transitory, earthy type of world that we live in, all of that is there just to create a little bit of the challenge in our lives, but it is up to us to make the corrections within ourselves, so that eventually HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, leave the tracklin, leave the prosdor, the hallway behind, and enter now into my palace, enter into my throne room. I am waiting for you. I have been waiting for you for 120 years. I just wanted to make sure that you were masakin, that you fixed yourself up in the proper way. The only one who understands the tikkunim, the corrections that a person has to make, is ourselves. Nobody else. We could speak to our rebbeim, we could speak to our therapists, we could speak to our elders, we could speak to our confidants, to our mentors, we could speak to all of them. But at the end of the day, nobody knows a person as well as the person knows themselves. And therefore only we can rectify what needs to be fixed up and corrected inside. And we pick one little task at a time, one broken vessel or one aspect at a time inside of ourselves that needs the correction to be made. And if a person does that, and he begins to maneuver through the hallways of life, even though the lobby is sometimes streaming with lights and with videos and with excitement and with a lot of other people, there's a lot of people in the hallway. And everyone's making noise. And everyone's looking and pointing at different things over here. And everyone's laughing and having a blast, a grand old time. And everybody's all a part of it. And there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of excitement, a lot of good stuff going on. And so we get very drawn into the world of the hallway, but we keep forgetting what's the goal. Nobody walks into a beautiful hotel and says, let me just stay in the lobby. You might admire the lobby. I heard that when they built the Waldorf Astoria, here in Los Angeles, California, and the one in Eretz Yisrael as well, they spent millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on the lobby, making sure the floor was just right, the furniture was just so, the decor was exactly the way that they would want it to be. When you walk in, you feel like you're in the grandest of all plazas. But nobody stays in the lobby. Everybody's trying to get into their room. They spent a lot of money for that room. They want to make sure they get good use out of it. So too in this world, nobody wants to be stuck inside of this hallway. But if we miss the point, which is to correct ourselves and to fix ourselves up, so then a person is not going to make it through that hallway very successfully. And that's what it says over here, that one of the languages that it uses is that we are fixing ourselves up, kidei shetikanes l'traklin, in order that we should merit to be able to enter into the traklin, to enter into the palace. And we asked in the very beginning, why does it say over here that you are fixing yourself up in order to enter into the king's palace? We don't do things in order to receive the reward. We don't do mitzvahs because we want to make sure that we get the best reward and the greatest portion in the world to come. We do mitzvahs and we serve Hashem because it's the right thing to do. I don't have to behave in class because I want the teacher to like me. I behave in class because it's the right thing to do. I study for my test, not just for the A, but I study on my test because it's the right thing to do. Okay, the residual effect is you're going to get an A. The residual benefit is your teacher's going to like you. But someone that's altruistic about their pathways in this world, they're doing it not for the reward, but rather I'm doing it because God, the one above, the Holy One, blessed be He. He blesses me with so many things in my life. He's given me so much. The least that I can do is I can do my job. At the end of the day, I'm going to get rewarded. What a great benefit. But why does it say over here the whole reason I came into this world and I'm walking through this track, through this prose door, this hallway over here, is today in order that I should get the reward? That's only secondary. And this is telling me something that I should want to do. So the Sanzer Rav says the following. He says, Kavanas HaMishnah, what is the Mishnah telling me? Hatakana hi sheteda sha'olam hazeh hu rak proizdor. It's in order that a person understands that this world is only a hallway. The kol masecha and all of your actions, they should be in order. Liikanes l'traklin, in order that you will be able to reach the ultimate goal of where you want to be. Says the Sanzer Rav, the reason that the Mishnah says that this world is a prose door, this world is a hallway, in order to get you into the world to come, or as kedei, in order that we should get to the world to come, is to teach you that valuable lesson. Don't lose sight of the world that we are in. This is not the end to all means. This is not what it is all about. This world is just a passageway into the world to come. This world is just getting us to the goal of where we would like to be. So yeah, you got to chaperine, you got to grab onto the opportunities. Yes, you have to grab a mitzvah here and a word of Torah over here. Yes, you have to open your door to the poor and to the needy, and you have to give tzedakah to those that need it the most. Yes, of course. Nevertheless, that's just the passageway. And if you keep your eyes on the goal of where you want to get to, and you know what you're trying to accomplish, then you will be meritorious to receive the invitation directly from the master of ceremonies himself, no less than Hashem, into his royal palace, to sit and to dine by his royal table with all the other great tzaddikim, the righteous individuals of previous generations who had their focus and their goal in the same place. So as a person goes through the passageway and they brush off the dust from their clothing, and they make sure that their teeth are clean, and they make sure that their tie is straight, and they want to see that their hair is all just exactly the way that it should be. so too a person has to constantly be checking themselves in this world to make sure that they look exactly the way that they should be. A wealthy man once came to Rav Yisrael Salanter, and Rav Yisrael Salanter was sitting down and speaking with him. And in the middle of their conversation, while there were other of the Talmidim, the students of Rav Yisrael Salanter gathered around, Rav Yisrael let out a little krech, a little groan like that. A little sigh. But he didn't say anything afterwards. Conversation continued. The wealthy man thanked Rav Yisrael Salanter for the time, and then he left. So the students who watched every action of the great Rebbe, Rav Yisrael Salanter, they asked him, Rebbe, why did you sigh in the middle of that conversation? So Rabbi Salanter said to them, I'll tell you the truth. I'm sitting here speaking to this very wealthy man. He's dressed in his finery, comes in his golden carriage with his beautiful white horse. He's a man of great prestige. And while we're in the midst of talking, I realized that the hem on the bottom of my pants was ripped. And for a moment, I got very embarrassed that this wealthy man is standing there in front of me, and I'm talking to him, and I have a rip on the bottom of the hem of my pants, which, by the way, means the rich man probably didn't even see it. But that's not why I sighed. Okay, fine. I'll be a little bit embarrassed if my clothing was not as kempt as it should be. But then I thought to myself, all day long we are standing in front of the Ribbono Shel Olam, the Master of the universe. And we have so many rips in our soul, so many tears in our heart, so many damages, so much damaged material inside of our midos, of our character traits. And on that, I'm not embarrassed in front of Hashem. And for that, I let out a little bit of a sigh when I realized that if I'll be embarrassed in front of the rich man because I have a rip in the hem of my pants, I should certainly be embarrassed in the eyes of Hashem for all the rips that I have going on in my soul all of the time. So as long as a person will continue to correct and fix and make themselves better here in this world, so then that person they will be zeicha, they will merit to be able to have a strong place waiting for them in the world to come. But if a person tries to clean off the things that are not so important, if a person spends their time in the hallway over here getting oohed and awed by the sights and the wonders that are going on around us, and yet we pull ourselves away from what is the ikar, what is the most important thing, I have to say that this week, the nicest part of Shabbos was being cut off from the news. It was such a machaya, it was such a lifeline to all of us that were sitting at our Shabbos tables, and we didn't have to hear what was going on in the news. Who's winning? How many votes? Which state? This one swung this way, that way. What did he say? It was so relaxing. Peaceful Friday night dinner. Zmiros songs by the Shabbos table, Divrei Torah, good night's sleep, no tension, no anxiety, no nail biting to see what's going to happen. Wake up Shabbos morning, don't check the news, just walk out into the beautiful brisk air, walk to shul, come, daven, sing, say drushes, eat cholent together, enjoy each other's company, go back to the Shabbos table, have guests over, enjoy each other. Have a nice time with the family, with the kids, just peace and quiet. Get a little bit of rest maybe in the afternoon, come back to shul again, nothing. The whole day was menuchas hanefesh, it was peaceful. This world that we live in, that's why Shabbos is me'ein olam haba. It is 1/60th of the world to come. It is a little bit of a portal, a little bit of a peephole into what the world to come is going to look like. When all of the pressures and the stresses and the noise of this world, you leave it behind for 24 hours. And you can focus in on things that are so much more valuable, so much more important. When you don't hear the noise of CNN, if that's your news media station, or Fox News, if that's your news media station, or one of these great political analysts on talk radio who just love to hear themselves talk. And the greater the accent, the more they like to hear themselves talk. Just imagine 24 hours, no noise, peace, tranquility. Shabbos is a glance into the world to come. That means that the world to come that we are eventually going to achieve and we're going to reach, the beauty and the glory of it is going to be is that all of the noise of this world, all of the sights and the wonders and the sounds that kept pulling us off track from being straight down where we're supposed to go, they're all going to be gone. But there's one caveat. If we didn't correct ourselves and fix the broken vessels in our lifetime while we were here in this world, so then guess what, folks? We're going to have to go through it again. And the next hallway might not be as sophisticated, might not be as fancy, might not be as enjoyable, but we'll have to go through it again to work and to correct and fix ourselves up. So we learned from Shabbos that you can take a break from the world. And on Shabbos, a person begins to develop their vision and their outlook on themselves, on their family, on their mission, on their task, on what they're doing here in life. And then when we go back into the week, when there is the noise, and there is the tension, and there is the frustration, and there is the challenges at every corner, but at least we're so much better equipped right now to be able to deal with everything that is coming our way. When we go through this world wisely and carefully, and we understand what it is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us, and we look deep inside of ourselves and we see where the challenges keep coming again and again and again, and we say, that's what I came into this world to be misakin, to correct, then, says the Mishnah, then you will be invited by private invitation only from the master of the house, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. He's going to say, come. You cleaned yourself up. You fixed yourself up. You came in nice and groomed at the right time over here. Welcome into the ultimate world. What does this have to do with the Levi, the funeral that I went to earlier today? So listen to an amazing story. Mr. Armin Moshe ben Yosef was an elderly man. He came to America from Iran, from Persia, many years ago, raised a family here, beginning in New York, and then eventually settled down in California. And he was a person that whenever you would see him, there was always a sweet and a warm smile on his face. Always. He was always tranquil. He was peaceful. He was at ease whenever you would see him. And this is not a man that had a simple and an easy life. Yet with all of that, he never let it weigh him down. He always had a crowning smile on his face. About 10 months ago, maybe in January of last year, just a couple of months before coronavirus hit, he was diagnosed with cancer. And he was put into the hospital immediately, and they had starting to do surgeries and treatments to him. And he was older, and his body was weaker, and they did the surgery and the treatments, and they decided that he couldn't go home right away. He would have to go to some kind of a rehab center to be able to get his strength back. Enter March 15th of last year, coronavirus hits, and everything basically shuts down. So you have a man who's an older man. His wife now is at home all alone by herself. And he's stuck between the hospital, the rehab center, the old age home that they eventually put him into. His family can barely come and visit him, barely, because coronavirus, you can't have any visitors. He would get sick. The only time that they're able to see him is when he got so sick they had to go back to the hospital. One of his children would have to be there to take care of him. And it goes on like this for 10 months. 10 months he's in the hospital, between the hospital, the rehab center, the old age home, trying to get the best treatments and the best care possible. And his children and his wife along the way, they can't even see him. About a month or so ago, he began asking his children and his wife, he says, I want to come home for Shabbos. So they told him, look, you're in the old age home, you're high risk, you've got a lot of health issues going on right now, they're rehabilitating you. You know, when you get stronger, God willing, and you get better, and you go into recession and everything. So recession, yeah, from the cancer. So then we'll bring you home. Remission. So they kept telling him, we can't. There's nothing. The doctor's not going to let you. And he kept saying, please bring me home for Shabbat. I don't like being here in the old age home for Shabbat. There's no spirit of Shabbos. The atmosphere is not, the food is not like yours. He said to his wife, I want your food. I want my house. I want to be home for Shabbat. I don't want to be here. Please take me home for Shabbat. And it goes on like this every week. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally, last week, the doctor said, you know what? He looks actually pretty good. And there was nobody in the house that had COVID or was around COVID. They said, you know what, if he wants to come home this week for Shabbat, let him come home for Shabbat. So on Thursday, they release him from the old age home that he is in. They send him home for Shabbat. He's supposed to come back after Shabbat. He spends a beautiful Shabbos together with his wife, children. I believe some of the grandchildren were even there. He was like a king. He was like in heaven, they said. The food and the atmosphere and the singing and the beauty of the family, the warmth being together. He celebrated a beautiful, relaxing Shabbat. The 1/60th of Olam Haba of the world to come. Saturday night, after Shabbos was over, he went and he lay down to go to sleep. And he never woke up again. He passed away on Saturday night in his sleep, in a state of tranquility, in a state of bliss, in the comfort of his own home, after keeping the last Shabbat of his life, which was the first one that he kept in his house in 10 months. We came into this world to correct ourselves. We came into this world to fix ourselves up. We came into this world to wipe away the dirt and the grime that is building up on top of our neshamas, on top of our souls, to make sure that at the end of 120 years, we're clean, clear as day, to be able to go into the place where we'd like to go in. Some of the dirt we have inherited from previous lifetimes. Some of the dirt we roll ourselves around in this world and make ourselves dirty. Some of the rips and the tears that are in our neshama is because of unfinished business from a previous life. And sometimes because of our unfortunate foolishness, we end up creating the rips and the tears ourselves here in our lifetimes as well. So what are we to do? Says the Mishnah, just remember, this is not the end all of worlds over here. This is just a place where you're going to fix yourself up. Before you go to see the king, you make sure you're clean. It's like that young man going on a date for the first time with that young lady over there. He looks in the mirror 5 times before he gets out of the car. He makes sure his teeth are clean, his tie is straight, his hat is on the right way. And then he goes and he's standing outside the door and he's... So when they open the door, he looks like exactly the knight in shining armor. We want to be able to look like the knight in shining armor when we leave this world, radiating in front of the eyes of Hashem. And I just was struck by this story with Mr. Armin. He felt it. The neshama knows when its time in the hallway is coming to an end. The neshama knows when it's already lived through everything that needs to be misakin to fix itself up. So he was like pleading with his family and the doctors, just let me have a nice Shabbat at home. Let me enjoy my wife's cooking. Let me enjoy my children and my grandchildren. I should smile and see them. Let me just enjoy the comfort where I want to be. Because when the duty is done and the pathway has been traversed and you're standing at the end of the hall and you're looking back at everything that you passed, all the pitfalls, all the distractions, all of the frivolity of this world, it's all behind you now. And now a person can enter into the traklin, into the palace, and the king himself is waiting. So remember, everything that happens in this world and the Shabbos of this world is just a key to the understanding of what that world is going to look like in the world to come. And therefore anybody who appreciated the respite on Shabbos from the noise and the anxiety of the last week of our life here in America, if anybody appreciated not having to check our phone 10 times every hour to see, did the numbers change yet? Did the numbers change yet? Did he win? Did they declare him the winner already? When is America going to change already? If we all agreed that it was nice not to have to deal with any of that for 24 hours straight, then just know that Olam Haba is going to be so much greater than all of that. It's going to be the ultimate in bliss, in spiritual pleasure, in awakening, in awareness of the neshama becoming so pure and so lofty. But we have to do tikkun, we have to fix ourselves up in this world. Each one according to the brokenness of their vessel, each one according to the dirt that is on the layers of their soul, each one according to the rips that are in the hem of their clothing, each one according to who knows their own personal challenges and deficiencies and faults of what they need to work on. But when a person will do that, then they will merit to go through the track, through the prosdor, through the hallway, and they will end up in the greatest place of all. They will be dwelling together with the king in his palace while he's sitting there on the throne smiling at you, stretching out his hand, welcoming you closer for the ultimate pleasure in the world of that world. The pleasures of this world, they come and they go. How much candy can you eat? How many bites of prime rib can you ingest before it's, oh, I can't eat anymore? How many cookies could a person sit down to and eat in one sitting? How many bags of potato chips? How many vacations, how many cars could a person own? How many shoes could Imelda Marcus have in her closet over there? She only has 2 feet. And I think they were very small feet at that. How many shoes can you have? How many dresses? How many pants? How many suits? How many ties? How many homes? One over here, one by the beach, one by that beach, one across the world. You can only be in one place at one time. But in that world over there, the more that a person builds and creates in this world, the greater is going to be the pleasure that is waiting for them. May the neshama of Moshe ben Yosef have an aliyah. May his simple, pure, beautiful life that he led, where with always a smile on his face as he was moving through the trackland, there's not a man that got distracted by the sights and the sounds and the wonders of the hallway over here. And perhaps that is why at the very end of his life, all that he wanted was one last Shabbos, a me'ein olam haba, leaving over a message to his children that I know where I'm going. I'm going into the world to come, to the place that Shabbos is just a sample, just an example of that. For when you make it through the trackland, when you make it through the prosdor, through the hallway, you eventually end up in the trackland, in the king's palace, basking in the pure and the beautiful glory of the king. Have a wonderful night. We should all continue to grow and to find our path in the hallway over here in order that we should merit to be able to sit and stand in the trackland, in the palace together with Hashem. All the best. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.